Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Even Your Dynasty Show. It is Sunday night at the time of this recording. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. On this episode, we're going to talk about who I think should be the Giants' number one trade target this offseason, and that would be center fielder Luis Robert Jr. of the Chicago White Sox. Now, it was initially thought that Luis Robert Jr. was not going to be available at all, and he was kind of an untouchable that they were wanting to build around as a cornerstone piece there. But Bob Nightingale sent out a tweet on November 17th, which was Friday, saying, "Attention all shoppers, Chicago White Sox GM Chris Getz was quoted as saying, I've made it very clear that the White Sox are willing to listen in on any of our players." Now, listening and actually trading, two different things, but the way I look at it, if they're willing to listen on a player, that means you have an opportunity to blow them away with an offer and try and trade for said player. So if they weren't interested, if there's zero chance of them trading Luis Robert Jr., they wouldn't be listening for, to any kind of offers or anything like that. So I don't know how far, how willing they are here, but it's something that we're going to look into on this episode. To start off, for anybody that's wondering who Luis Robert Jr. is, he is, as I said, the center fielder for the Chicago White Sox. He is a budding superstar there, Gold Glove caliber center fielder. Actually won the Gold Glove in 2020 in the COVID season. Has been elite defensively throughout his career. Has massive raw power. Has hit 38 home runs in 2023. Also has plus speed and has hit for an okay average year in and year out. Actually, he had 1 year in 2021 where he hit 338 in only 68 games. Hit 284 in 2022. Had hit 264 this last season. He actually seemed to have sacrificed a little bit of his contact for more power, as he went from, the previous 2 years, he had about a 19 and a 20% strikeout rate to all the way up to a 29% strikeout rate in 2023. But he also jumped from hitting 11 home runs, 13 home runs, 12 home runs his first 3 seasons to hitting 38 last season. Now, the one thing I will say about those home run totals, they're a little bit deceiving because it kind of looks like, a guy that didn't hit for a ton of power his first 3 years, which really isn't true. He hit 11 home runs in 56 games in the COVID season, and he hit 13 home runs in only 68 games in the 2021 season. So, you're looking at a guy that has produced high power rates during his time. Now, some of the cons with him are he's battled injuries. I mean, that's the big one. In 2021, that year that he performed so well, I mean, he produced a 3.4 WAR and a 155 WRC plus, meaning he was 55% better than league average. He only played 68 games because he tore his hip. He suffered a full hip flexor tear that caused him to miss like over 3 months of the season. And then 2022 had COVID, had a left wrist sprain, suffered a groin injury. So he missed a bunch of time, was limited to 98 games, and it kind of limited his effectiveness when he was playing. Last season, he actually had calf tightness at one point and missed the very end of the season with a knee sprain. Now, he did play 145 games last year, which was easily the most of his career, but again, it can be concerning. Now, there's not really many, reoccurring injuries. Some of them are kind of fluky. I mean, getting sick with COVID, it is what it is. The wrist sprain happened when he got hit by a pitch, but these are things that happen in baseball, and sometimes injured players stay hurt. So that would be one of the main cons with him. He has a very low walk rate coupled with a high chase rate. You're talking about a guy with a 43.3% chase rate. I mean, that's in Casey Schmidt territory. Now, he's obviously had a ton of success, and even with that chase rate, he does a ton of damage, and he punishes the ball when you do throw him pitch in the zone. And that's kind of where Schmidt struggled last year, is he wasn't doing damage when he got good pitches to hit. So this isn't a guy that struggles with that, but high chase rate, low walk rate. He only has walked 5.3% of the time in his career. His strikeout as a career was 25.3%. It was 28.9% last season, and that's kind of where I was saying it looks like he sacrificed a little bit of power or sacrificed some contact for some more power and doing more damage. Some pros where he fits with the Giants. He's a Gold Glove center fielder. They need that. You're talking about a guy with 4 elite tools. He's got a 70 grade power, 70 grade speed, 70 grade fielding, and a 60 grade arm. The only negative is some of the swing and miss with him. He's been productive as a base stealer. He's gotten 9 stolen bases as a rookie, 6 in his second year, 11 in 2022 battling the injuries, and 20 last year in his first fully healthy season. So, he's a guy that if he's healthy, you're thinking he can give you 20 plus steals. So he fits a lot of what they need. He'd be a middle of the order hitter. And the main thing with him, what makes him such an attractive trade piece or trade target, is he is going to enter his age 26 season, and he is under contract for 4 more seasons. And also, the last 2 seasons of that are club options. So if, I wouldn't hopefully this doesn't happen, but if it went just completely sideways, the Giants could just bail after year 2 or after year 3 very easily. I wouldn't foresee that, but that's the beauty of the club option. And so, you're looking at a guy that you'd have for 4 years, which 26-year-old superstars with 4 years of club control, that doesn't come available. Or those guys don't come available typically. So I would, for one, if he is in fact, he is the kind of guy that I'm willing to, I'd be willing to gut the farm for, so to speak, which, the Giants farm system's a lot deeper now than it used to be. I don't think it would be a full-on gut job, but you'd have to trade significant pieces for him. And the way I would look at it is, if it didn't make the Giants and their fans go ouch at the Hall, then the White Sox probably didn't get enough for the guy, is the reality. So, but we're going to start with the salary implications, kind of where that would stand. In 2024, he's scheduled to make $12.5 million. In 2025, he'd make $15 million. And then in 2026 and 2027, those are the 2 club option years, he'd make $20 million, if assuming the club options picked up both of those years. Now, as far as cost goes on what it would cost to trade for him, you never know for sure, but I would probably use the Juan Soto trade from the middle of the 2022 season as kind of a comp. Now, it's hard because in that trade, the Nationals traded both Juan Soto and Josh Bell to the Padres. I don't, unless the White Sox plan on trading like Andrew Vaughn or someone, I don't know who else if they would end up attaching anyone else, or if it would just be Luis Robert Jr. in that. So I'm going to go off of just him. Now, Josh Bell did have value. He was having a very nice season. Funny enough, his season tanked as soon as he went to San Diego, but in 2022, he was having a nice season at the time of the trade. I think he was hitting like 290 with 14 home runs. So he was actually a valuable piece in that trade. He just didn't work out in San Diego. So if you look at what the Padres ended up sending back, they actually sent back C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, Robert Hassel III, James Wood, I think it was Jarlin Susano, and Luke Voigt, who was a veteran first baseman. Basically, they sent him back to go play for first base for the Nationals, since the Nationals were sending Josh Bell. So they sent essentially 5 prospects and a first baseman to take over at first for Josh Bell in order to get those 2 guys. So, assuming Jarlin Susano and Luke Voigt, I'm going to take them kind of out of this because yeah, I'm going to just look at the fact that Josh Bell was part of that deal and just kind of remove those two out. So essentially, what they traded was C.J. Abrams, Robert Hassel were their number one and number two ranked prospects for San Diego when they sent them. Mackenzie Gore and James Wood were their number 4 and number 5. So they traded 4 of their top 5 prospects in order to get Juan Soto and Josh Bell. So then you look at and I'm going to go off the MLB.com rankings here. C.J. Abrams, Robert Hassel, C.J. Abrams was ranked 9th in the top 100. Robert Hassel III was ranked 37th, and Mackenzie Gore was ranked 86th. Now, Mackenzie Gore used to be a top 10, and he had kind of fallen off a little bit, but he was still ranked in the top 100. So, I mean, when you're looking at a guy for like Luis Robert Jr., you're probably having to trade at least 2 top 100 prospects, if not possibly 3, or guys that were like former top 100, and that's where I'm going to kind of get into here. So you're looking at a pretty substantial haul, and then probably 1 or 2 more guys in the top 10. I see a lot of people that are like, oh, it's going to take like Kyle Harrison and then 3 guys that are down the Giants prospect list a little bit. That's just not realistic at all. You like I said earlier, you don't get a 26-year-old superstar for cheap. Like, it's going to hurt. So what would that deal probably look like? I think you're looking at 2 of the, you have Kyle Harrison, Marco Luciano, and Carson Whisenhunt are currently 3 players on the Giants on the MLB.com top 100 that are the top 3 prospects for the Giants. You have Luis Matos, who was in the top 100, but he graduated because of how much playing time. He's no longer like eligible to be on the list. So you have Luis Matos, and then Casey Schmidt had gotten into the top 100 last year. He peaked like around 99 or 98 or 100. He was like right in that spot before he graduated off the list. So realistically, I think you'd probably be looking at trading, depending on who the White Sox would value more, you'd end up trading either Kyle Harrison or Carson Whisenhunt, and then you'd probably have to trade one of Marco Luciano and Luis Matos. So you're going to end up with 2 of those guys, essentially, of those 4. And then you'd probably be looking at maybe a guy like, maybe they want Casey Schmidt because they want guys that are closer to Major League ready. Maybe they would rather have, and some of these guys that are on their farm, like Everson Arteaga or Grant McCray, they could end up wanting guys like that are maybe toolsy guys that intrigue them. It depends on what they want. But I think at the very least, you're looking at 2 of those guys, or 2 of those 4 names I listed, and then it might be like Reggie Crawford and Grant McCray or something, or maybe they want Walker Martin, who the Giants just drafted this year. I don't think there's really anybody that would be quote unquote off limits as far as like young prospects in their system. I think the one young, rookie, now he's going to be in his 2nd year, that the Giants probably wouldn't be willing to move is Patrick Bailey. I think they view him as too important to their future. So I think he's the one guy that probably would be like totally off limits, but anyone else, I wouldn't hesitate to make that trade. I mean, you're talking about a guy that would fit so many needs on this team. And the reality is all these prospects, they could be good, they could not. The Giants could look back in a few years and go, "Oh my God, can't believe we traded all these guys for Luis Robert." Even if he's good, Kyle Harrison could turn into a Cy Young candidate, and some of these guys could become all-stars. But the reality is they're all coin flips. You don't know if any of them are going to ever be good. Kyle Harrison could end up having command issues his entire career and never be more than like a high 3, low 4 ERA pitcher, and you would not feel bad about that if that's what he ends up being. So I think it's possible that the White Sox are willing to do it, and the Giants, while their farm system isn't necessarily considered a big strength, part of the thing people aren't factoring in is, oh, they have the 21st ranked farm system, or 20th ranked. Some of them I think I've seen as high as 18th. But Patrick Bailey, Luis Matos, these guys, or Casey Schmidt, all these guys that were like high on their prospect list graduated off their list last year. So it's hard. They have a bunch of young players that have value that could go back that aren't just on that list. So I think they could make a deal that they would want. And with the fact that they could send 2 or 3 guys that are already at the major league level that are, 24, 22, 20. I think Harrison's 22, Matos will be 22, Schmidt would be 25. The fact that they could send these guys that are 22 and 25 and at the major league level, that could be something that's appealing to the White Sox, where they think, okay, well, we're going to get cheaper, we're going to get younger, we're going to get 2 or 3 guys we think we can build around now and some guys for later that maybe helps them with their rebuild. So I think it's possible that he's attainable. We'll see. Now, the other part of that is, now, why would you want to trade for a guy like Luis Robert Jr. aside from everything I just listed? Well, if we did on the last episode, we talked about Shohei Ohtani and being interested in trying to sign him, and you get a guy like Luis Robert Jr. who you can just stick right behind Shohei Ohtani and give him protection. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they won't still pitch around Shohei Ohtani if he decides to come, but knowing that he'd have a guy like that behind him might give him more, might make this situation more appealing. I still, at the end of the day, I don't think they end up getting him. But the good news is as I mentioned earlier, Luis Robert Jr. is only making $12.5 million, which means you could trade for him and you could go sign Cody Bellinger, or you can go sign, they're interested in Matt Chapman, or you can go get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and like there's so many routes that could go with him that just deepens your lineup and makes it better and better. And the one thing people might be concerned about as well is the power aspect. Let's not trade for a power hitter in Oracle Park. It's it's hard on power hitters, and it's the reality is Oracle Park plays so much more fair to right-handed hitters than it does to left-handed hitters. The prevailing wind in San Francisco on most days kind of runs from the right field foul pole to the left field foul pole. So for for right-handed hitters, the wind isn't going to hurt as much. If anything, sometimes it helps, but it's not really a hurting wind, because to center field and to left field, it's not really blowing in. It's for the left-handed hitters trying to hit the ball out towards McCovey Cove. The wind's kind of coming in on those guys. So right field and right center play a lot harder to hit out of than left center or center field. So you get a guy like Luis Robert who, you look at his spray chart from this last season and where all of his home runs went, and it's kind of crazy. Like, he hit 38 home runs last year, and if you actually look at that spray chart, depending on how you want to interpret it, I saw anywhere from 6 to 12 balls that would have left Oracle versus the parks that they got, he hit them in. So you're talking about a guy that his power would play easily in this park. It's the same thing I say about a guy like Pete Alonso. When you're hitting the ball 420 feet, it really doesn't matter what stadium you're playing in. It's going to leave the yard. So, and then you factor in that this team, the Giants, have been one of the worst outfield defenses in baseball for the last several years. And you can get a guy that has a career, has been worth a career 14 defensive runs saved and 26 outs above average. So, and a guy that's been elite defensively in 3 of his 4 seasons. And the one year he wasn't was 2022, when he was battling through a bunch of like groin injuries and different injuries that could have been impacting that. So, and even that year he was worth -4 defensive runs saved, but he was still worth 3 runs or 3 outs above average. So he was not bad by any stretch in the outfield. So he would improve them defensively. He would definitely improve them offensively. And I think he would just be an awesome fit as far as everything and make this team more attractive for others to try and sign here. Because that's the beauty of trades. All you have to do is get the other team to agree to it. It's not trying to convince some player that, oh, my power, isn't going to play well in Oracle, so I'm going to go to a hitter-friendly environment. Luis Robert doesn't have a say in this, and he's under contract for 4 years. So these are the kinds of guys the Giants should be trying to go hard after. So I'm going to put that'll be the end of this show. I'm going to put my Twitter in the description. Follow me there. Tell me, like, comment, subscribe, all the stuff. Tell me if you disagree with me. Tell me if you think they should stick with the kids. I'm actually okay with that plan too, but this is one of the few guys around baseball that I would 100% be willing to move heaven and earth to try and get over to the Giants. So other than that, I will hopefully be back on here in the next couple days, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.